top row for men, and then labor force participation in the bottom row for women. This is a United States example, but you see these trends represented in data across a set of countries. What you see with this data is that both men and women were affected by the pandemic. At the heights of some of the lockdowns in 2020 and beyond, both men and women dropped out of the labor force. You see both lines fall down. But then you start to see, if you look at the men's line where we are today in the US, men have returned to the workforce at a similar rate to where they were pre-pandemic. However, when you compare that to the line for women, the line at the bottom in blue, women have still not returned to the workforce at the rate that they were present pre-pandemic. And so women have disproportionately exited the workforce during the pandemic. So not only were women behind to begin with, they've also disproportionately been affected as a result of some of what we've seen in the pandemic. Now let's try and understand why that might be. If we move to the next slide, you see one reason for this, which is the sectors and occupations that women are in. So what you see on this chart in rows is various sectors that have been most affected by job losses during the pandemic, things like retail or the food service industry, not surprisingly, because these are activities that involved a lot of in-person presence. Now, what we see is that women tend to be disproportionately represented in some of the sectors that were most hit as a result of the pandemic. So one factor driving higher female unemployment is that it is just where women work and those sectors being disproportionately hit. But what our research finds is that does not explain the full degree of job losses that women experienced, and it does not explain why women still continue to remain out of the labor force. So there are various other explanations that you see on the next slide that our research does point to. The first is the fact that women disproportionately are engaged in unpaid care work. Even before the pandemic, they were doing about 3 times the amount of unpaid care work as men. And during the pandemic, that amount only increased disproportionately. So for example, they were spending 30% more time on family responsibilities in India, 10 to 15 more hours every week in the US compared to men. And so a big burden of both managing work in the workplace as well as work in the home. And then also the issue related to stereotypes. Some survey data suggests that about a third of respondents across 80 countries believe that when jobs are scarce, men have more right to those jobs than women. And these kinds of biases may explain why women have not yet re-entered the workforce at levels that men have. There's another challenge that women have experienced during the pandemic beyond just their participation in the workforce, and you see that on the next slide, which is the experience that they've had when they've been working. So if you move to the next slide, what we see is that women face steeper challenges even when they are in the workforce. So a survey that we ran asked women and men about various issues related to mental health, challenges balancing household responsibilities, things to do with job insecurity, etc. And across all of these questions, across all of these challenges that all workers experienced in the workforce, women disproportionately experienced those challenges, cited them as significant challenges compared to men. So not only have women had difficult experiences in terms of their participation in the workforce, even when they're working, the workplace has been much more challenging for women compared to men in numerous ways, all the way from mental health to balancing household and care responsibilities. Now, why should this matter? Now, this of course matters because gender equality is the right thing to do, but it also matters because gender equality is the smart thing to do. And we assess that by looking at the GDP impact of women's participation in the workforce. So I'll give you 2 examples of that. If you move to the next slide, one of the things we try to assess is how much GDP would be affected as a result of the experiences in the pandemic. So on the next slide, what we see is that today women contribute about, or pre-pandemic, women were contributing about 40% to overall GDP, women 40%, men 60%. But if you look at that continuing going forward, women by 2030 would have contributed again about 40 to 60, that 40 to 60 ratio being maintained, and GDP would have increased to about $116 trillion by 2030. However, if you account for the fact that women have dropped out of the workforce And the hit to GDP from that, GDP overall by 2030 would be $1 trillion lower than it would have been if women had maintained their participation in the workforce. So this challenge of women not participating equally has a real GDP impact. If you move to the next slide, as a flip side, if we make investments to actually allow women to participate more equally in the workforce, we actually do see a boost to GDP. So on the next slide, you see two examples of that. One where we wait to take action till the pandemic is over. Sorry, can somebody move to the next slide? Yeah, one example is where we wait to take action till the pandemic is over. The other is an example where we start to take action to invest today. And in both scenarios, we see GDP increase anywhere from $8 to $13 trillion. So there is a real impact to countries and inclusive growth from this. So my last slide on the next page is just to say that there are a set of actions that stakeholders can take to try and make progress. Can we move to the next slide, please? One is what we've been talking about a lot, which is a focus on women and women-owned businesses as part of these efforts to recover from the pandemic. A focus on MSMEs, SMEs across countries can really help women participate in quality jobs. Committing to building the care economy, and given the nature of work and trends related to the future work, narrowing and eliminating gender gaps in digital and financial inclusion. So with that, I will hand back to the moderator, and thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Mekala. And your presentation highlighting whether this during pandemic COVID, it is becoming much harder for women, yeah. But actually, what can women do is conducting or starting a woman's own MSMEs and try to sustain on doing that. Because I think a lot of challenge that women face more due to a lot of problems facing in, not only because it's not easy to starting MSMEs, but also about the workplace that women need to be facilitate more, and also the other one is facing mental problems that it's become a huge problem that women face. All right, thank you so much, Mekala. And we are moving to our next opening presentation by Ibu Nani Zulminarni from Indonesia. She will present Sustain or Grow, the role of microfinance for women's own MSMEs. Ibu Nani, you have 7 minutes.
Thank you, Vara. Good day and happy International Women's Day, distinguished participants. It's a great honor to be here. Almost 20 years ago, we started organizing the poor women-headed family who are widows, divorced, abandoned, and single women in Indonesia. There are at least 15% of households in Indonesia headed by women. Majority of them have no regular income or income less than $1 per day, and no assets, no access to resources for livelihood, but have their own super micro enterprises at survival stage. So they have limited formal education background, access to information, and opportunities to exposures. My question at that time were, how to support the women to have access and control over livelihood resources so that they can cross the poverty line and grow as equal as others. And second question is how to ensure that access to financial support or credit, microcredit, will not put the women into the debt trap. And what approach and principles need to be applied to ensure availability of sustainable financial resources for the women to fulfill their livelihood and grow their super micro enterprises. I'm very much resonate with the research done by Makala and Emily on the finding that actually financial support or other business type of support is not the only thing to bring women out of the poverty. So we decide to organize the women to form saving and lending cooperative. This is the economic model deeply rooted in Indonesia, introduced by our founding father, Muhammad Hatta, as the vice governor of East Java already mentioned as well. We start with saving, not lending. Saving is not only a strategy to accumulate the capital, but also a strategy to train the women to manage their own resources, be independent, and be proud of their own capacities. The micro lending only happen after the cooperative accumulates saving from their members. It is given to the most needy member first. Additional capital from outsource can only be given after the cooperative grows and the members' need also grows, their micro enterprises also grows. The cooperative apply collective decision-making where members have access and control over the decision-making and agreed on any regulation applied to the members. So the leadership have fully accountable to their membership. And during annual meeting, they will report to the members and decide on the cooperative profit and risk sharing. Moreover, the cooperative become the learning space for the members, including learning about democratic system and economy. One member, one vote is a principle that make cooperative become inclusive and equality for all. Financial institution and the financial institution owned by women enterprises. I think as the researchers mentioned before that access is not enough. Women need to have control. In this strategy, community organizers play very critical and important role as capacity builders, facilitators, connectors, and build partnership cooperative. So although it's not as smooth as we wish, this approach worked for the women-headed family quite well. Some indicators shows that the growth is quite positive. Individual saving increased more than 150% per year. The loan unit increased around 800% per year, and the profit sharing they earn also increased almost every year. So we face some challenges. First, of course, the perspective that women, this is the bias, that women are great borrowers has caused women become target of money lenders, both formal and informal. Many programs only focusing to lend money to women entrepreneurs without empowerment and capacity building support and investment. So there is still biased success indicators of financial support to women SMEs, which is loan disbursement. So how much money, how many people, how many borrowers, all this kind of indicator. So without considering whether the women have fully control over their resources and their well-being. Therefore, in many cases, women trap into the debt trap and have stressful life experiences. So the other challenges is the transformation of women producers to traders and consumers due to economic difficulties, economic challenge, and global market penetrations. So I would like to end my presentation by offering some recommendations. First, of course, it's very important as W20 to recommend to our government to create an ecosystem for women empowerment so that women can overcome their obstacles to grow their entrepreneurship. And second, micro-lending should not only focus on access to financial resources, but also ensure that women have control over their assets and financial decisions making. And third, poverty alleviation policy should be systemic and long-term by responding the root cause of women vulnerability, not only giving, not only symptom cure. Support women to claim back their production capacity by protecting women's knowledge as producers and artisans. And next, promoting micro market supply chains, so not monopoly, because this is women cannot really compete to the big market or the big capitalists. So that's why the micro market supply chain is very important. And the last one, but not least, promoting cooperative as a collective women-owned financial institution, business, and market. So if I still have time, then I have a very short video to close this presentation, Farah.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
You may open your video.
Yeah, I think I let the persons there to open the video. It's only 1 minute, please. Thank you so much for.
Thank you, Ibu Nani. We can now enjoy the video, 1-minute video that Ibu Nani has presented. There you go. Yeah. Is there any sound to it? Ada suaranya?
No sounds.
No sound
Technical
yet?
glitch. It's okay.
So Ibu
Yeah,
Nani is woman-headed family empowerment. We call it PK,
yes.
pemberdayaan perempuan kepala keluarga. This is a foundation that focus on empowering female heads of families to improve their livelihoods and to encourage them to be active in social and political life. Supported by the Mampu program, PK works in 20 provinces, 34 districts, and 129 villages. And this video can show you how women actually can be financially independent and become the breadwinner. So let's give a round of applause to all women as a breadwinner. All
Thank you,
right.
Mara.
Yeah. Ibu Nani, thank you so much for your presentation, and it is an honor to have you here. But please stay in Zoom because later on we will have back-to-back sessions with a lot of delegates. Yeah. All right. So we have really comprehensive perspective from 3 opening speakers, ladies and gentlemen. And now we need to move on to the next, which is spotlighting some key issues and international good practices in women's entrepreneurship and MSMEs. And to facilitate all 6 good practices, I am pleased to have Virginia Littlejohn, W20 delegates from United States. Virginia, you can take it from here. Hello, Virginia.
Hello,
hear
and
me?
thank you. Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Can you please make Virginia louder, please? Because Virginia,
Yes.
can you hear my voice loud, clear?
Yes, I can.
All right.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you
Okay.
clearly.
And
So
I'm
Virginia,
trying
you
to
can
turn on.
What is it again?
I'm trying to turn on the video. You have me turned off centrally.
Yeah, but have you turned on your camera?
That's what I'm trying to do.
Okay.
Can you turn it on?
Operator bisa dibantu untuk buka. Okay. Anyhow, probably there we can see you, Virginia. All right.
Okay.
Yes. You may
First
carry
of all,
this session.
thank you so much. I appreciate it hugely. And happy International Women's Day, everyone. But first, I have to make a couple of housekeeping announcements to my panelists. The members of the W20 delegation tend to be extremely busy with many speeches on International Women's Day. And we've had several who have just had to drop out in the last couple of minutes, and because they have other speeches that they have to do today and we're running a bit late. So they have sent me their speeches, and I'm going to ask 2 panelists to, after they do their speeches, if they would be able to read the speeches from Barbara Cleary and also Yeshim Sevig.
Virginia, I'm here. Barbara's
oh,
here.
you are here. Okay.
Yes,
I may
I'm also
change.
here.
Okay, terrific.